Hello there and welcome to another edition of the Premier Investments and Wealth Management Financial Program. My name's Doug Wagner. I'm your host. Before I introduce the two gentlemen who are in the room with me today, I want to take a moment to ask you to use your browser on your phone, your smartphone, whether it's your tablet, whether it's your laptop or your desktop. Head over to premieriwm.com, and from there you click on Get Started in order to get your one-page Premier Vision document. You'll just answer a few questions, and they'll provide for you the answers to the questions for you. Am I ready for retirement? Am I ready maybe for my child's education post-high school? Or maybe you've got a dream purchase sometime in the future. Odds are, if you're like most Americans, you don't know if you're ready for retirement or any of these other things, but they can help you at Premier Investments and Wealth Management. Get ready. Again, premieriwm.com. Click Get Started, and from there, just answer a couple of questions. They'll get the one-page Premier Vision document to you and set up an appointment. Free, no obligation consultation. You can sit down with them. Well, maybe you're interested in just forgoing that process and say, I'm ready to do this because I've watched enough of these or listened to enough of these programs. You can call to make your appointment today at 800-383-6590 or do it at premieriwm.com. Premier Investments and Wealth Management, named to Forbes 2025 Best in State Wealth Management Teams. Introducing in studio with me today, Regional Vice President. He's wealth advisor as well, a certified fund specialist with over 16 years of experience in the investment industry, Chris McNeil. Hi, Chris.
Hey, Doug. How are you?
Doing well, sir. Good to see you.
I'm happy to be here.
Also with us today, he's an accredited investment fiduciary. He's a president and wealth advisor with over 22 years of experience in the investment industry. You may know him. His avatar, just 50 years ago, it was Jaws, the big kahuna, Roger Abel.
Doug, I'm just trying to press you up here a little bit.
The Grand Pumbaa.
I feel like it's been a while
it has
since
been.
we've done this, and I've been out of town a little bit, but I'm happy to be here back with you and happy to have Chris here from our Dallas office.
Yep.
He runs the show down there, so I'm excited to have him here.
It's 50 years since Jaws was released, but you've been in this business for 22 years, so it's like Jaws has been working its way up the ladder here.
I mean, the kahuna gets bigger and bigger. What can you say?
It's interesting that you say that. This is
Already
the 50-year
one.
anniversary. There was an article that I read the other day that said literally the largest great white male shark in the Atlantic is about 10 miles off the coast of the Carolinas right now.
Oh.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
I was like, well, that's interesting because we were talking about preparing for the show and the 50-year anniversary. I'm like, wow.
You prepared for the show.
Yeah,
I love
100%.
that. Doug's like,
100%.
come back again, please.
Right?
Exactly.
Oh, maybe Molly's saying that.
14 feet male great white shark
That's
off
wild.
the Carolinas. So if you're tuning in from the Carolinas, make sure you don't go swimming.
Don't go swimming.
Yeah.
My wife actually the other day said our kids are done going in the ocean. We're done with the ocean.
Oh, yeah.
There's been a lot of shark attacks. She's just not good with it. She's good with the pool.
Yeah.
No, hey, everybody's good with pool because you don't find one of those there. Now, maybe fake ones.
Right.
Somebody has. No, but
Well,
not
I stay my butt out of the ocean because, I look like a baby albino seal swimming on the top of the water. I'm not trying to take any chances here,
Yeah. I'm uncomfortable in bathtubs, so I got no issue with that. So
As we digress.
yeah.
Anyway,
All right.
moving on.
Listener questions is what we're answering today. Let's start off with Linda's question here in Premier Investments and Wealth Management Financial Program. I've always assumed I'd work until 70, but a recent health scare is making me think twice. I have some retirement savings, but is it too late to revise my plan if I want to retire sooner? Roger, this is something that I know that we've talked about before, is when people plan on retiring and when they actually retire are two different things for many reasons. Health scare is one of them.
Yeah, I think there's a big difference between when people believe they're going to retire and when they actually do. About a third of the people say they're going to retire after 70 or work forever. Mm-hmm. The reality is only about 6% of the people does that end up happening to. Okay. So, Linda, you're not in the minority here. You're in the majority of people that thought we'd work till 70, we'd go earlier. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, though, it's never too late to sit down and reassess where you're at and get a financial plan. Okay. Really getting a financial plan done is really similar to saving money. The best time to start was actually yesterday, but there are some key things that you're going to have to do now that your timeline's potentially been moved up. And I mean, we're making some assumptions here. We're assuming Linda's actually done a financial plan. Right. if she hasn't, the first step here, I think Chris would agree, is get the plan put together so we can see where you're at and start to make things kind of a little bit more clear.
And I'm 100% with Roger on this. I actually think it's safe to assume that she hasn't done a financial plan.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't know whether she's able to retire sooner or not. That's one of the beautiful things about what we do at Premier Investments and Wealth Management is being a goals-based wealth organization. One of the very first things we do is put that financial plan together. And I know Roger will agree that in most cases, when we put that financial plan together, that's what causes most of the anxiety for most investors and most new clients that we work with is that what they don't know can hurt you, right? Like this scares them. But when you put that plan in place, you have that idea of, okay, can we retire soon? Or are we going to have to work a little bit later? And in most cases, that's also why we put the financial plan in place, is so that on an annual basis or semi-annual basis, as we get together with the clients, we're just simply tracking where we're at according to the plan. Are we ahead of pace? Are we on pace? Are we slightly off pace? And what modifications are warranted in that regard? So I think the plan will do actually her a lot of good and give her more of a comfort level and educated idea on what decisions make the most sense for her.
So that's a good answer, Chris. For you, Roger, for people who do have that financial plan, or now that, say, for example, Linda does have that financial plan, what are some of the things inside of the financial plan that you find out when you actually run the numbers?
Well, if Linda has a plan, we're definitely moving the timeline up, it sounds like. And that could change a lot of things because it may change when we're going to take a pension.
Okay.
It could change what Social Security benefit we have. It's definitely likely going to shorten or lessen the probability of success, assuming it's not 99% already, because you're moving the timeline up. That doesn't mean it's good or bad, but you need to have a real good handle on how much monthly income you believe you need. Because let's be honest, we're talking about financial plans. The biggest factor is having a handle on your budget. And we've said it on this show, I don't know how many times. If you don't know what you're spending, that's your biggest risk in retirement.
Right.
Doug, you can go out tomorrow and buy a car you can't afford, and you could work your way out of it, right? You could do some side gigs like this. You could take another job. You could work a year longer. Once you're retired, especially if it's due to health, you don't have a chance to make up for the mistake. So we have to get a handle on what is our spending. So step one, let's update our spending numbers, get a really good budget put in place. Step two, we need to start to evaluate all of our income sources. What do we have coming in? And then we can kind of back into how we're going to make this work.
It's possible, Chris, that you may have to scale back or maybe figure out a different way. Maybe you had this goal of retirement that you wanted to hit 10 out of 10. Maybe you're going to have to settle for 8.5 out of 10 for the first 5-10 years of it, because you need to be the ability to sort of rebuild that up over time.
Right. Well, 8.5 out of 10 is still good. You know, like we'll oftentimes say is like, share with me what you envision your retirement looking like.
Yeah.
Not just for the next 5 to 10 years, but for the next 20, 25, 30 plus years, which is the length that most individuals retiring today are going to spend in retirement. I think the one caveat, and to Roger's point, when it comes to the financial planning and the budgeting, is that if you are looking to retire pre-65, I think most investors and most individuals don't take into consideration Medicare and not qualifying for Medicare at 65, which means great. If you're in a position, or God forbid, there is a health challenge where you're no longer able to work, where you are having to retire pre-65, there has to be that in case of emergency break glass kind of situation.
Yeah.
Where you're able to still fund that healthcare policy for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, depending on what that bridge is between when you retire or are forced to retire and when you qualify for Medicare.
Premier Investments in Wealth Management. We're talking about Linda's question. I'll reset the question here in a second, but I want you to have the opportunity to go to their website at premieriwm.com. They've got lots of downloadable information for you that can help ease your mind. You know, there's a lot of people who are really nervous, and I think Chris hit on this earlier. There's the nervousness after you get the financial plan because you're seeing, oh my gosh, I am so far behind. There are a lot of people who don't even want to go into it. It's not what they do at Premier Investments in Wealth Management. They're not going to shame you. They're going to pull you in because they want you to get the most out of your retirement, whether you're starting at 35 or at 55. Get in touch with them at premieriwm.com. Premier Investments in Wealth Management, named in Forbes 2025 Best in State Wealth Management Team, or call them at 800-383-6590. Linda's question deals with the fact that she'd assumed that she'd work till 70, Roger. She had a recent health scare that's making her think twice. She's not there yet, but she needs to know. She'd like to feel comfortable. She's got some retirement savings. Is it too late to revise my plan if I want to retire sooner? So again, for me, it's like she's got a plan. Is it too late to revise my plan if I want to retire sooner? Healthcare options have a lot to do with this.
So I had a comment on Chris's healthcare, which I would guess if I polled, and you probably would agree, Chris, if we went on and polled 50 people that are under age 65 and said, what is healthcare going to cost you if you retire at 62? They're all going to say, or vast majority are going to say, I don't know.
Yeah.
Here's what's really cool about the software we have. Mm-hmm. You can pull in a healthcare tab and it will estimate your healthcare cost based upon the current marketplace rates in your state of residence. Yep. So the client doesn't have to go figure out what it's going to cost. Our software we use will figure it out because it is the number one biggest unknown for people. What am I going to spend on healthcare? They don't know. And truth be told, the vast majority of advisors, unless they're involved in selling health insurance, which most of the really good financial advisors I know don't sell health insurance, they need a way to estimate it. And our software can quantify that for them. It is a great thing to be able to use. And, you know, people have choices if they have to leave early. It's COBRA or ACA. That's it. Like there's two options, and COBRA only lasts 18 months. Yeah.
And a lot of times it can be really expensive too. It's not like ACA is that much less expensive, really, when it comes down to it. There's a lot of, difficulty with that still so many years after that was passed.
Well, an ACA is based upon income level. So if you're losing your job and you have less income, ACA might be a lot less than COBRA.
Okay.
There's too many moving parts to determine what the right strategy is. And honestly, it's a reason you consult with us to help make that decision. And the other thing I'd say about updating a plan, one of the things we do a really good job is we're updating the plan annually. So a situation like this, if Linda called our office and said, hey, I'm sick, what's it look like? You know how long it would take us to figure out what it looks like? About 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Because we're just going to change her age.
Right.
That's it. And we can
and income needs and all of that.
Yeah, but let's just say the income's the same. The assets are what they are now.
Right.
All we do is say, well, instead of 70, we're retiring at 64. What's it look like? Boom. And now we can start to make assumptions. And if it's not looking good, okay, Linda, let's really take a look at how you're going to spend money. Because one of the big mistakes people make, Doug, when they're planning, they put all of their spending into needs, right? Oh, well, I'm going to take $10,000 of vacations a year. That's a need. No, that's a want.
Right.
And the reason we like to segment it between needs, wants, and wishes is because needs are the things that are going to be around when we're 85, 87, 90 years old. They're never going away. But wants are different. Wants have a limited life horizon. How many 85-year-olds do you know traveling to Europe once a year?
No.
None. But if I met that individual at 65 and they said, we need $20,000 a year to travel to Europe every single year, and then we put that as a want, that assumes they're going to do that till they're 94. And that's a massive misrepresentation of how people spend money.
Yeah, there's the go-go phase, the slow-go phase, and the no-go phase.
Well, and the beauty at Premier, we've watched, this isn't, we're assuming. We watched multiple thousands of customers and how they take money out of their account. And one of the things we've noticed with how people actually spend money, somebody sets up a $5,000 a month distribution when they're 65,
Mm-hmm.
when they're 72, they're still taking $5,000 a month. They don't come in here every year and say, well, inflation was 3.8% and eggs went up, so I need more money.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what happens. What happens, they spend the same. So because inflation's happening, inherently they're spending less. And we've had the purview to watch this happen time and time again and get a really good understanding of how people spend it. It's one of the benefits of working with a firm that has 9 advisors. And if you look at the combined experience of this office, it's well over 100 plus years.
Right.
We've seen things happen over and over and over.
It's one of the benefits of working with professionals. If you have an illness, you go to the doctor. If you have a legal issue, you go to an attorney. If you want to build wealth and you want to make sure you're taking care of retirement or your children's educational future, of that dream purchase that you have, you need to be in touch with the wealth advisors at Premier Investments and Wealth Management. PremierIWM.com is the website. Go to the website, click Get Started, answer a few questions. They'll provide for you a one-page Premier Vision document and a free appointment to go over it so you can take a look at what it looks like, your financial future, and you actually have a roadmap to go forward. Call today for more information. If you're curious, 800-383-6590 with Chris McNeil and Roger Abel. We're answering Linda's question. She always thought she'd work till 70. She had a health scare. She's got a financial plan, so she's thinking about what her options are. Let's talk a little bit about adjusting her lifestyle expectations as needed. We talked about that 9 out of 10, 8.5 out of 10, 8 out of 10, whatever it is. This is time for some frank discussions, and it's a good thing and a bad thing because reality can be kind of tough. But when you've served thousands of clients like Premier IWM has, you have the opportunity to use those years of experience and those thousands of clients that you've worked with to help benefit Linda.
Yeah, I think to Roger's point, like he talked about, a client that retires with us that's taking $5,000 a month in income at 72 is still taking the $5,000. Mm-hmm. I think, we as a team have had more conversations with our clients that are like, hey, you can afford to take more than the $5,000 a month. Like, we're in good shape. The plan shows that, we can take more and still be in a good spot, mm-hmm. if not a great spot. And they're like, no, 5,000 is still good. Like, we're good with that. So, but, I always tell our clients, life gets lifey, right?
Yeah.
So, it's weird to say, but the most important relationship that you as a retiree should have, outside of your significant other, of course, mm-hmm. is probably your financial advisor or your wealth manager. Because if there is a life event that comes up, you have a grandchild or a child that, you're wanting to start contributing assets to their 529 or just save for them in general.
Right.
When those life events happen, to Roger's point, that's a phone call that needs to be made to us. And within minutes, we can update that plan and tell you how that's going to affect your overall retirement, your savings, things of that nature. But that's also why we get together with our clients. We're reaching out to them on a quarterly basis, mm-hmm. whether it be a phone call, checking in with them, every 6 months. And to Roger's point, on an annual basis, updating the plan. Are we on track? Are we ahead of track? Are we off track? The sooner you know that, the easier and less the adjustments have to be in the overall plan to get you back on track and make sure you're maintaining the lifestyle that you want to envision and experience.
Right. Roger, like Chris said, basically life gonna life. And when you sit down with
life
people,
gets lifey.
Yeah, exactly.
Life gets lifey.
When you sit down with people to make this plan in the first place, one of the things you say is, what does your first year of retirement look like? This is going to help people. They're going to have to revisit what their purpose for retirement is because it may have drastically changed.
Well, it likely did. What we don't know is how far did Linda's timeline get moved up? Mm-hmm. Is it 3 years? Is it 5? Is it 11? Mm-hmm. If it's 11, things changed a lot.
Right.
I mean, seriously. So, but it's really why having a plan is super empowering. Seriously. Mm-hmm. Regardless of what the probability of this working out for Linda is, she will know what it is. She's empowered to know. Mm-hmm. You made a comment when we started, Doug. A lot of people are fearful to go in to get a plan done because they're afraid they're behind. It's mm-hmm. no different than me going to my family practice doctor every single year. Mm-hmm. right? 3 months ahead of time, you got to start beefing up, watch the weight, less alcohol.
Celery juice, right? Celery
Because we
juice.
want to look good. I mean,
Live the life your doctor wants you to.
well,
Yeah.
But think about this. Seriously. I had this discussion with someone the other day. If I didn't have an annual physical, I wouldn't even be thinking about those things. I'd just be living an unhealthy lifestyle and eating junk food and candy and cupcakes and whatever. But because I have that kind of accountability partner, which is similar to what an advisor can be, are you going to go into your advisor making all these mistakes? No, you won't. You're going to try to clean them up. And maybe you don't clean them up for the whole year. Maybe it's 6 months or 8. So, right? Because 3 months ahead of time, I'm gearing up for my physical. Well, those practices, they're kind of habits now. They carry over for another 3 or 4 months. And then by Thanksgiving and Christmas, I kind of fall out of favor, have some good times. And then February, I got to get back in the swing of things. So I do mine in May, by the way, before summer, after Christmas.
Get the
so
winter,
I can gear up.
Get the winter body, start getting the summer
It's
body.
kind of like growing a beard, a belly, same thing. But that's the same thing as going to an advisor. You're probably going to be fearful, but the advisor is going to be your accountability partner. They're going to help you stay on track, tell you whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, and then how do you fix the problem?
Yeah, and we're not here to shame you either.
Right.
Like, I think that's the other, hesitation that most people have when it comes to most professional careers, whether it be a dentist or your family physician or whoever it is that like, okay, well, if you haven't brushed your teeth and you haven't flossed on a daily basis, when you go in for your cleaning every 6 months, then there's probably going to be some work to do. And the dentist is probably going to tell you, hey, we need to increase these things so you can get back on track. We're not here to shame you. We're not financial dictators. We're financial advisors. Our job is for you to share your goals and objectives with us. We put that financial plan together based on those goals and objectives so that we can make educational investment recommendations based off of what you've shared with us. At the end of the day, it's up to you as the investor to determine whether you take that advice or not.
Well, what's neat about this is that you're talking about more than just numbers, because it's not like this is an engineering expertise kind of thing. You have the things that run the calculations, but you're talking about real life situations that take into account emotions, it takes into account relationships, it takes into account all of the soft things that are wrapped up in everybody's life, not just the hard numbers that come with life and death and the interest rate and how much you save and when you have to start taking money out. And it's about relationship building and psychology of investing.
Our job is really finessing the numbers to make people feel good. Not changing the numbers, but finessing the relationship and understanding how people feel and how they react, and try to make things work and really have them see things differently.
Right.
I just went to this conference at Duke University. We haven't even
Saw
talked since then.
that.
Did you see the jersey he was
Yes,
wearing?
I did.
Yes.
dad bod?
Gene Banks was there. He's the 6th all-time leading scorer for Duke. And he actually told his story when he came to Duke. He was the number 1 high school player in the nation.
Yeah.
Also in his class was Magic Johnson out of high school. He was number 1.
I heard that guy's pretty good.
He was pretty good. Well, Gene Banks told the story when all these big schools were calling for him to go to the university, and he took a visit to Duke and really liked it. And he didn't know where he was going to go. And the night before he had to decide, he had a dream that he was in a Duke jersey, and Duke had a horrible team. This is not the Duke we know today.
Right.
And his mom said, where are you going to go? And didn't tell her, did the press conference and said he's going to Duke. Everybody's like, what? You're going to Duke? They're horrible. Went to the championship his first year. But just a really good story. But to this conference,
Duke's a pretty good school if you're going there for, non-athletics.
Yeah.
Like education.
But this conference, they had a gal named Amy Lenhart, and she trains U.S. Special Forces. Like, that's what she trains. New York Police Department, all kinds of different people on how to see things differently through art. And she, by trade, is an attorney. She's got a law degree. But now this is what she does.
Right.
And this was really moving for me and really kind of sums up what we do for people. It was an hour-long presentation about how to see things differently through art, and was interactive with a partner. And there was a slide, and she said, I want one of the people in the group to close their eyes, the other person describe it. And it was a painting by Monet called Water Lilies. Do you know what this painting
Yes.
is? Do you know what it looks like?
Beautiful,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, there's multiple versions. If you guys don't know, there's multiple versions of it. So my job was to describe to my partner what I saw. And I'm like, well, it's dark. The water's tannic. There's water lilies. There's a bridge, whatever. Everybody open your eyes. And she puts number one. Raise your hand if you think it's number one. Raise your hand if you think it's number two. Raise your hand if you think it's number three. Well, my guy didn't get it right. I did a poor job. Anyway, it was number two. She then asked the crowd, tell me how you knew it was number two. And it was like, well, they said it was dark colored water, all these different things. And she stopped and said, how many people in the room did your partner describe that on the right-hand side of the painting in the bottom, there's a very fine white line? Zero people. In 17 years doing it, 15 people have noticed that.
Yeah.
And 9 of them are U.S. Special Force Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
Wow.
But her point was, there's all this stuff in plain sight that we don't see.
Yeah.
What are people really hiring us to do? They're hiring us to show them what's in plain sight and see what they don't.
Right.
Right? What the S&P 500 does is easy. Picking an asset allocation, kind of easy. What are you missing that you don't see? That's what people hire us to do. And that's one of the big takeaways from this. There's all these things everybody thinks we know. There's things in plain sight that we're not seeing. And that's really what we're trying to do with the financial plan. What are the things that are obvious, but you don't even know are obvious? And how do we solve those problems?
Yeah, because we can go both ways, right, Doug? I mean, we can go, we've got a client that's an engineer that wants to dive into the numbers, the analytics, like get deep into this quote unquote weeds. Absolutely. We can do that all day long. But I think if you talk to most people, they don't want to know how the watch works. They just want to know what time it is.
Yeah.
You know, they just want to know, hey, is that quote unquote mailbox money that I'm going to need to keep the gas in the car, the lights on in the house, the food in the fridge, is that all going to be there on a monthly basis regardless of the market and the volatility? And am I going to be able to live the lifestyle that I want to in retirement? That's really, at the end of the day, all they care about.
It's time to get beyond the noise. I mean, that's the chaos of every day that goes on, and you get so crowded with noise. It can, like Roger and Chris said, it can crowd out the information that you need. That's what they're here at Premier Investments and Wealth Management to do. They're the ones that can move that noise away and get the static out of the way so that you can see what's going on, what you need to do in order to prepare. Get that financial plan. You can do it very easily. Go to premieriwm.com, click Get Started. They'll provide for you the one-page Premier Vision document and a free no-obligation consultation to go over it. As a matter of fact, they'll hand that one page to you. You can walk out the door with it, do whatever you want. If you're like me, you're going to say, hey, I think it's worth being a client, affiliated, a customer of Premier Investments and Wealth Management. They are named to the Forbes 2025 Best in State Wealth Management Teams. PremierIWM.com. Find out more. Their bios are up there on the page. Lots of downloadable information. You can make an appointment online, or you can do that at 800-383-6590. They're there to help you separate the noise from the signal that's going to help you get your financial future where you need it to be. We're doing questions here along with Chris and Roger. Allison asks, my husband and I make good money, but we're still living paycheck to paycheck because of debt. We feel stuck. What is the first step out? First step, paycheck to paycheck, even though they're making good money.
Well, in today's economy, I don't think you're alone.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people who make a lot of money that feel exactly this way.
Was it Jay-Z or the Notorious B.I.G.? More money, more problems?
Yeah, you got it. Apparently we've listened to that song.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on where you live. You know, you're in our Dallas office, Chris, and you probably can speak to, you know, incomes versus cost of living. You know, fortunately in Iowa, that's not as big of an issue, but in Dallas, it's a lot more expensive.
Yeah, I mean, you can make $250,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year and still be living paycheck to paycheck, depending on where in Dallas you're living. You know, I would say if they're feeling stuck, you know, I think the first step would probably to make sure you have that budget in place and make sure you have an idea of what you're bringing in, but more importantly, what's going out. General rule of thumb is you always want to be at least saving about 15%, you know, of those paychecks. You know, and then obviously giving the good Lord above 10% on top of that. But, you know, general rule of thumb is you want to be saving 15%. If the budget's not in place where you're able to do that, you are going to feel like you're just treading water, where you're eventually at some point in time going to feel like you're going to drown.
By the way, there's a lot of people who maybe not grabbing hold of all the money that they can. They're leaving money on the table from the 401k match from their company. Don't want to forget that.
Yeah.
Billions.
Yeah, I think, like Chris said, step one is to make sure have a budget. Step two, prioritize your savings. I've said for a long time that most budgets are broken. And I'm going to play, because I don't think Chris has been on the show to do this, because I know you've heard it.
Oh, boy.
When you do a budget, Chris, what's the first line item on the budget?
What's the first line?
Yeah,
item?
the first thing on outside of your income, what's the first thing listed on a budget? What's your first expense?
Savings.
That's how it should be. But on most budgets,
Right. Well, that's you said
there
me.
You go. You did.
You
got
said
it right.
me. You
But
didn't say most
budgets,
people.
What is it? It's your mortgage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mortgage, then your student loans. All this money goes out before you
Right.
even started. What Chris just said is exactly what it should be. Savings first.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you save first, you don't have to worry about a whole lot in the long term. Like, make it part of your regular savings. Just like you said, do a 401k.
Mm-hmm.
People that tell me they're not doing a 401k that has a match.
Right.
The easy question to ask yourself is, do I want to get paid every dollar this job said they would pay me?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not taking advantage of the match, you're not getting your full compensation, and nobody wants to get shorted.
And a vast majority of people aren't, right?
It's
Like
crazy.
that's the shocking statistic, is that you can look at it, and I think 3 out of 4 people are not maximizing their contribution or taking advantage of that employee match. I mean, that is absolutely 100% free money.
Okay, I'm going to give you something wild. I don't know how it got into my Apple news feed, but it's like some London news publication, whatever.
Reuters?
No, it's not Reuters.
No?
It's something else. If I looked here, I'd probably be able to tell you. Anyway, I was reading an article yesterday about it, and this guy's like, he's opting out of a federal pension because he can't afford it in his lifestyle, because he's sending home $600 to help his family and $900 for his rent and $200 for something else. And he's going to be a doctor. But I'm like, you're opting out of a pension. It's the single greatest gift you've been given. Like, you have to figure out how to prioritize your savings. And one thing we've talked about a lot, my wife gets really annoyed when I talk about it.
Okay.
But we have a big population of this country that had to learn how to save on their own. They weren't taught by anybody. Generations, right? My grandparents had a pension.
Socioeconomics.
Yeah. My parents, no pension. They had to save for themselves. Guess who got to teach them that? Themselves. People think the Roth IRA, the 401k's been around forever. The Roth IRA, it hasn't been here 30 years. The 401k's only been around about 40. Well, my generation has learned about savings. It's important. We have a generation gap that nobody taught them. They had to learn themselves. Well, do you think they taught themselves at 20, or do you think they taught themselves at 40, 45, and 50?
Yeah, later.
Later.
Yeah.
Well, I think the big disadvantage, to your point, is the baby boomer generation, right? You know, like their parents, if they were retiring in the 70s or 80s, or and in most cases, even the early 90s, they were retiring with a pension and their Social Security benefits.
And a gold watch.
And a gold watch.
Because they worked somewhere for 50 years.
100%. So
Same place, yeah.
Same place.
Gold watch, like a Citizen, Rolex.
I don't know, it depends where you work.
I mean, it depends on where you
Pocket
work,
watch
right?
and a
Yeah,
Right?
probably was you're
Like
probably
a pocket
right.
watch,
Pocket
that would
watch.
be awesome. That would be epic. You know, when I'm here for 50 years, you're giving me a pocket watch.
Sure.
If I'm here for 50 years.
I don't know if they'll actually make them anymore.
Right? You know, which
It'll
is
be
why
an
they'll be even more
antique.
expensive. They'll be antiques.
You guys
That's
are
best.
pushing 100 too.
Right?
So.
102.
When we're 95, you're going to buy me a pocket watch.
You'll be dead.
You know?
Stop talking about my age.
No,
I am that
people are
first
living
person
longer
who's
later these days.
150.
Doug will be good.
Anyway, we digress.
I digress. But their parents, they knew exactly what their retirement was going to look like and what they could spend. They had the pension, they had the Social Security, they had all of that in place. Very little went to savings outside of, you know, non-retirement assets or the IRA assets. And then as we slowly but surely saw the professional environment transition from pensions, where now only 1 in 10 people retiring today are going to receive a pension, more to the 401k, the onus and the responsibility was put on us as individual investors to make sure our retirement is funded for where we want it to be. the baby boomer generation was really the first generation that had to deal with that transition of going from a pension and Social Security and knowing exactly what your retirement was going to look like to having to save it for themselves. So to Roger's point, they're having to teach themselves how to save. And I think most investors and most individuals will look at savings as the last line item on your budget, not the first. It's a nice to have, not a need to have. If you approach the budget as the savings isn't a nice to have, but a needs to have, and it's 15% of what we're making, then you can dial in everything else after that to make sure that you're able to afford everything you can or maintain that lifestyle that you're looking for. Because we want people to be able to live life, right? We don't want people to be, living in their house, not being able to go, out to dinner or go on vacations and things like that. But you also have to realize what kind of vacations you can take or where you can go to dinner, out to dinner, or go to the movies or things of that nature, knowing that long term, you're going to live a more comfortable lifestyle. And quite frankly, and in most cases, be able to retire earlier than you might think if the savings is the first line item and not the last line item.
Learn early, pay yourself first. That's the whole thing.
Well, you made a point, like it's a need to have item, right? It always was a need to have item. People just don't know they were doing it because the pension automatically came out before they had the opportunity to do it. Which is unfortunate. We don't do the same thing with 401ks, which they do auto enroll, but you can opt out and you can take loans. You made it too easy to access the money. I mean, if you have a pension, how do you access the money? You don't.
You don't.
There's no option.
You can't get
We've given too many options in America to people.
Premier Investments and Wealth Management professionals like this, they're working with people just like Allison and just like Lyndon, just like you, in order to simplify what can be very, very complicated. Getting ready for retirement. Do you know if you're ready for retirement? You can find out very easy by going to premieriwm.com, click Get Started, answer a few questions. They'll provide the one-page Premier Vision document and an opportunity for you to sit down with one of their wealth advisors in order to go over that so you can see what the roadmap for your financial future looks like. You know what? The earlier you do it, the better off you are, but it's never too late to start. So if you're feeling compelled right now, go to premieriwm.com. Get yourself involved with Premier Investments and Wealth Management, named to Forbes 2025 Best in State Wealth Management Teams, or you can call to make your appointment at 800-383-6590. Another part of this question from Allison, she's talking about they make good money, but they're just living paycheck to paycheck, and they're concerned, wants to know where to start. One of the things, it sounds like they've got some debt, and especially younger people, you may have a little bit more debt. You've got student loans, maybe you've got the house, you've got car payments and things like that. The importance of prioritizing the way that people repay debt is something that has been discussed for years. You've got the snowball, you've got the avalanche, you've got I don't know, sliding into second, but whatever it is, there's so many
moguls,
the
downhill.
There's so many different ways to do this, but you got to get started on it. You got to pick something and go. Is there a better one than the others?
Depends on your personality. But I would tell you that probably the one that resonates with most people is the snowball. And the reason the snowball works, and simply what it is, you list your debts from lowest debt to highest, pay the lowest ones off first, lowest amounts. Don't worry about the interest rate, just pay the small amounts. The reason that works for most people, most people aren't analytical in nature. They're emotional in nature. And when you have this sense of accomplishment, I paid off the $300 Best Buy card, it feels good.
The dopamine effect.
Yeah, that's exactly. It's
like you're progressing, you're making progress.
Right. But what's funny, I had a meeting with my banker who's also a client the other night. He was telling me when they were younger how they just got super aggressive in paying off debt. But guess how he did it? Highest interest rate first.
Yeah.
When you understand his background, it makes sense. He's an actuary by trade. So he's analytical minded. So this is where you have to understand how your mind works a little bit and massage it to your needs. That said, if you try it one way and it doesn't work, try the other. Like if you do the snowball and it doesn't work, try the debt avalanche.
Right.
The avalanche is highest interest rate first. The problem with the avalanche is if your highest interest rate is your biggest debt, it might take you 3 or 4 years to do it. There's no right way. Just
a little longer
get it.
to accomplish that goal and feel like you're progressing.
Yeah, the only way that works if you're highly mathematical and you're like, I'm paying so much less debt by doing this.
And that's
so
your
much less
dopamine
interest.
effect right there.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. We got about 5 minutes left on the program. Something that we haven't talked about, shockingly, throughout this entire thing is creating an emergency fund, because that's something that you insist on when you're saying, well, let's put your financial plan together. That's one of the very first things is putting together an emergency fund. Sounds like they're living paycheck to paycheck. Then what happens if the unexpected happens?
Yeah, I mean, you can pay down the debt, but if you don't have that emergency fund in place, and like earlier, if life gets lifey, I mean, guess what you're utilizing to offset that emergency?
Is that a
the credit
need
cards
to put at the very beginning as you're starting this whole thing off? To like, I need to do this because this is investing in your future.
Yeah, I mean, I would say if you're looking at it from a prioritization standpoint, if you have debt, first step is let's get that debt paid off. Let's, to Roger's point, and he said it earlier, make sure you're focusing and prioritizing paying yourself and not someone else or a corporation. So let's get the debt paid off. Second, let's build out that 3 to 6 months in savings. And again, it's going to be different for everybody. If you're a single individual and you're in your 20s, then 3 months of monthly expenses might be enough.
Right.
If you're married and with kids, then you're probably going to want to have a little bit more cushion there. But pay the debt off, build that 6 months or that emergency savings up. And then at that point in time, let's start budgeting, contributing to different types of investment accounts for retirement purposes. Absolutely.
Roger, one of the things in the podcast that I listen to that we're getting, there's a lot of commercials now for these things that automate going through your online subscriptions and all of the things that you subscribe to in order to excise them. That's something that can be huge because there's a hidden stuff in there.
We've talked about it. It's amazing.
I mean, I use it myself.
I just had one for today that we forgot about.
Yeah.
$1,999 a year annual renewal. I'm like, we haven't used this in 2 years. Molly, see if you can fix it. She sent an email while we were here trying to fix it because we thought we unsubscribed and apparently we didn't because the email address has changed.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. And people don't go broke by making big purchases. Seriously, people are very conscious of big purchases, and you don't make that many. You don't buy that many cars. You don't buy that many homes. You go broke $9.99 a month at a time. Seriously,
it's a good point.
$9.99, $20.99. Let's use Hulu. My Hulu subscription started at $49. At one time, it was cheaper to stream Hulu than to have internet, right? Or to have DirecTV or cable, whatever. $114 for Hulu. I have YouTube TV too. $60. I have Roku. I have Netflix. You start to add all this up.
Yeah.
I'm spending more money on media than I ever have, and I watch 75% less.
Yeah.
So
part of that's having kids too, though.
My kids don't even know what Hulu is. They only know what Netflix and Amazon Prime are. They don't know anything else.
Mine are the apps, the Roblox.
Oh,
all of that.
I bought some houses
the subscriptions
this morning.
to that.
I know all about
right? Like
Dad, can I get this $3.99
they don't want cold hard cash and greenbacks. They want Robux at this point.
Yep.
This is funny.
We were driving the other night.
Right?
Dad, can I have some Robux? Sure, $1,700 worth.
Right.
Yeah.
$19.99.
There you
I've got some Sears for you. You want some Robux? That's where I come from.
Sears
Sears and Robux? Yeah, no, that makes sense.
You take the $19.99 at a time,
exactly.
right?
Those give you some ideas right there, Allison, of what exactly you can do to start off. And some other things, work together with the shared plan. Make sure you and your mate are on the same page as far as that goes, as far as making sure that you're paying off what needs to get paid off, that you're working in conjunction with one another, not fighting one another without realizing it. You know what? If you need a good foil, if you need a good conversation, if you need somebody to talk to and to listen to you and help you develop your plan, my friends at Premier Investments and Wealth Management are willing to do that. Chris, Roger, the rest of the staff are available for you at premieriwm.com. You can make an appointment right there online. You can see their bios. There's lots of downloadable information on there. They have been named to the Forbes 2025 Best in State Wealth Management Teams at Premier Investments and Wealth Management. It's something that your financial future, especially now amidst the chaos and the volatility, is something that you probably need to do your best to get a handle of. Get in touch with them at Premier Investments and Wealth Management. Call 800-383-6590. That's 6590. For Chris McNeil, for Roger Abel, my name's Doug Wagner. Until next time, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Premier Investments and Wealth Management Financial Program.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. The opinions voiced in this show are for general information purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial or tax advisor prior to investing. Premier Investments in Wealth Management and LPL Financial do not provide specific individualized tax or legal advice. We suggest that you discuss your specific situation with a qualified tax or legal advisor. Economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful. All performance referenced is historical and is not a guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and cannot be invested into directly. There is no assurance that the techniques and strategies discussed are suitable for all investors or will yield positive outcomes. The purchase of certain securities may be required to affect some of the strategies. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of principal. There is no guarantee that a diversified portfolio will enhance overall returns or outperform a non-diversified portfolio. Diversification does not protect against market risk. Forbes' Best in State Wealth Management Teams ranking was developed by Shook Research and is based on in-person, virtual, and telephone due diligence meetings and a ranking algorithm that includes a measure of each team's best practices, client retention, industry experience, review of compliance records, firm nominations, and quantitative criteria, including assets under management and revenue generated for their firms. Investment performance is not a criterion because client objectives and risk tolerances vary, and advisors rarely have audited performance reports. Shook's research and rankings provide opinions intended to help investors choose the right financial advisor and team, and are not indicative of future performance or representative of any one client's experience. Past performance is not an indication of future results. Neither Forbes nor Shook Research receive compensation in exchange for placement on the ranking. For more information, please see www.shookresearch.com. Shook is a registered trademark of Shook Research, LLC.